Greetings to Safe to Serve International and first-time viewers. Welcome to this Midday Power Surge. I'm your host, Andrew Henriquez. Now today, I have a special guest. I will introduce him shortly. He'll be addressing practical preparations for these last days, survival tips on how to persevere, how to endure the coming crises. Several things are trending right now. And number one, I want to address the cyber attacks are becoming more frequent and more disastrous, negatively impacting communications, water supply, as well as the electric grid. What are we to do in these frightening times? What are we to do in these solemn times as we see end-time prophecies being fulfilled? You have to stay tuned for this. This is going to be a life-changing presentation for the better. Not only identifying the crises, but how to spiritually, how to practically get ready. I can't wait for this one. Have you recalled recently the idiom birth pangs? A mother in labor about to give birth? We are told that the contractions become more frequent and they are more intense. And the Bible likens such things as to end time events. Take a look at this. Several months ago, we heard of communications disruptions, cell phone services disrupted, internet services down. Take a look.
Good morning, Dave. Yeah, if you are waking up without cell phone signal, you are by far not the only person. When I woke up this morning, I woke up to see the little SOS signal.
Clip 2.
People say that they are unable to send text messages, make phone calls, or even use internet services on their phones. Now, AT&T, they write, if you are an AT&T customer and cannot get through to 911, then please try calling from a landline. If that is not an option, then please get a hold of a friend or family member who is a customer of a different carrier and ask them to call 911 on your behalf. Now,
and that was February 22nd, 2024. And now we're seeing the following. Major 911 outages in 4 states, leaving millions without an easy way to contact authorities.
All North units of suicides having 911 issues.
Overnight, emergency services down. 911 outages affecting parts of multiple states and even whole city police departments. As cyber attacking remains a major concern for authorities across the country.
Birth pangs. This was on April 17th rather.
The country.
Rescue dispatcher 49.
Across 4 states, residents unable to reach police or ambulances, with a full statewide outage in South Dakota. In Nebraska, local authorities saying landlines were still getting through, but all carriers were down Wednesday night except for T-Mobile. The border city of Del Rio, Texas, issuing a community alert.
You may have difficulty reaching us internally, and we're having difficulty receiving 911 calls as well.
And overnight in busy Las Vegas, residents couldn't get through to 911 on cell phones or landlines for 2 hours.
Appropriate units.
It's unclear what caused the outages, but it comes as the Department of Homeland Security has told officials to be on the lookout for cyber threats. The government warning in the past that there's an increased risk of cyber attacks to 911 services as they move to internet-based systems.
And when I saw this report, I could not help but to recall that movie, Leave the World Behind. Of course, with the filthy foul language, but Leave the World Behind, predictive programming. And there was mentioned in the movie 3 stages, 3 steps to overthrow a country, a nation. And step number one was to disable their communications. Are we seeing it now? Cyber attack, leave the world behind, the 3 stages.
We are seeing ongoing cyber attacks across the country.
First stage was isolation. Disable their communication and transportation. Make the target as deaf, dumb, and paralyzed as possible, setting them up for the second stage.
Haven't you been picking up on what's going on out there? We've all been deserted.
That is a startling statement. We have all been deserted in a crisis. Who will you call in a crisis when 911 is no longer available? We have all been deserted.
Setting them up for the second stage.
Second stage.
Synchronized chaos.
Synchronized chaos.
Terrorize them with covert attacks and misinformation.
And that comes next, synchronized chaos. And what is stage 3? The final stage, to topple a nation.
Done successfully. Third stage would happen on its own.
What's the third stage?
A coup d'etat.
That's what it is, a collapse, civil war. And the WEF also mentioned expect catastrophic cyber attacks in the next 2 years.
The most striking finding that we found is that 93% of cyber leaders and 86% of cyber business leaders believe that the geopolitical instability makes a catastrophic cyber event likely in the next 2 years.
Friends, this is
This
going
far
to...
exceeds anything that we've seen in previous surveys.
Enough. This is going to raise your mental awareness right now. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas actually ran a news bulletin stating that emergency services are going to be crippled by cyber attacks. Do you know when he ran that news bulletin? April 10th. That's 7 days before April 17th, when what he stated came to pass. Look at that. Emergency services, a likely target for cyber attacks. The date was April 10th. Friends, either he's a prophet, predicting things and they come to pass, or he is a conspirator, a part of the conspiracy to overthrow, to topple the United, to topple the U.S. Now, bear in mind that Mr. Mayorkas is actually Jesuit trained and educated. And this is the confirmation. Jesuit trained, Jesuit educated, Loyola Law School, a Jesuit institution, Ignatius of Loyola. And their purpose is to overthrow Protestantism and nations that are actually Protestant nations. And the Pope, a Jesuit Pope, actually stated it's time to prepare the future. Not prepare for the future, but prepare the future. Are these men manufacturing these crises? Well, here is one. Klaus Schwab. Prepare the future. It's built by us.
Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government, the future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room.
And here is Klaus Schwab about a frightening scenario, his words, a coming cyber attack. Listen what infrastructures would be crippled in America.
We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole.
Let us get back to what is now trending. This was stated. Imagine this frightening scenario, April 17th. Imagine the impact on local public safety if jail management systems were inoperable because of a cyber attack. Think about that. that police communication capabilities were disrupted, that the public was unable to contact local police in an emergency, that detectives and investigators were unable to access sensitive case data. That's John Cohen, former intelligence chief at DHS. A frightening scenario. And Great Controversy, page 589, says that these crises will happen one behind the other in quick successions, just as it was in the book of Job. Cyber attack on the water supply in America. Take a look at this. Hackers linked to Russia's military claim. Linked to Russia's military claim credit for sabotaging U.S. water utilities. This came out April 17th, 2024. The same day when there was a communication disruptions in America. What's happening? Crises happening simultaneously. But look at this. This came out December 1st, 2023. Cyber attack on U.S. water supplies in multiple states. Birth pangs. These events are happening frequently and they're becoming more disastrous. Clip one.
This next story also concerns the Russian threat in this case to Americans right where they live. Today, experts from a noted cybersecurity firm said they suspect a group of hackers with ties to the Russian government of carrying out a cyber attack on a water facility in rural Texas.
They have to find a boogeyman to blame.
There was also suspicious activity targeting public water systems in 3 other West Texas cities, Abernathy, Hale Center, and Lockney, according to officials.
Little West Texas know-how?
Yeah, I guess so.
Buster Poling is the city manager in Lockney. He says officials noticed unusual activity in the computer system and made security changes to keep the hackers from taking control.
This is what I call the coming white swan event, not black swan, white swan event. They actually tell you it's coming and then it comes to pass. But then they blame another sinister rogue organization.
What's your biggest fear would happen?
My biggest fear is that there could be health and safety impacts. In addition to that, just the widespread panic that could occur if multiple systems were affected simultaneously and the public confidence is eroded.
Compare his words with the clip in Leave the World Behind. Stage 2.
Setting them up for the second stage. Synchronized chaos. Terrorize them with covert attacks and misinformation. Overwhelming their defense capabilities, leaving their weapon systems vulnerable to extremists in their own military.
Blame somebody else. Blame somebody else. Here is the actual FBI director, Christopher Wray.
I would say that is unique about the environment that we're in right now in my career is that while there may have been times over the years where individual threats could have been higher here or there than where they might be right now, I've never seen a time where all the threats or so many of the threats are all elevated all at exactly the same time. That's what makes this environment that we're in now so fraught.
They're happening how? Simultaneously.
Blinking red lights analogy about 9/11. All the lights were blinking red before 9/11. Apparently, obviously, all of us missed it. Would you say that there's multiple blinking red lights out there?
I see blinking lights everywhere I turn.
Okay, all right. Can't say any better than that.
It's a possibility they are the ones blinking those lights, manufacturing these crises. Take a look at this now. U.S. Energy Department, other agencies hit by cyber attack. That was June 2023. Look at this now.
Now, when I described the CCP as a threat to American safety a moment ago.
Who are they blaming now? The panda nation, China. From Russia to China, this is 2024. They will speak about cyber attack on water supply, the electric grid, communications, and transportations. Who said those words also? Klaus Schwab.
Now, when I described the CCP as a threat to American safety a moment ago, I meant that quite literally. There has been far too little public focus on the fact that PRC hackers are targeting our critical infrastructure, our water treatment plants, our electrical grid, our oil and natural gas pipelines, our transportation systems, and the risk that poses to every American requires our attention now.
We need to be focused when? Now.
China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike.
Here is my synopsis of all of this. Do you recall that they blamed the same panda nation for the pestilence 19 pandemic? And yet afterward, we heard reports stating that there were labs right here in America doing the very same thing that they blamed the panda nation for. We can take that as a template. Now they're blaming the panda nation for cyber attack on critical infrastructures in America when, wink, wink, we are the ones manufacturing said crises. At this point, I'm preparing now to segue. This is a life and death situation. While 911 is inoperable in several states, I believe it's time for us to understand the emergency scenario, time period we're now living in. This says if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Several weeks ago, I shared with you 50 items you need to consider. It does not mean you garner all of these 50 items. It's simply giving you a starting place. Take a look at number 20 on the list. Lighters, matches. My special guest will be addressing that. Take a look at number 34 on the list, which covers communications. I will be addressing that. By the way, not I, but my special guest. And take a look at number 49, spiritual preparation. Number 50, yes, practical preparation. With that in mind, I want to introduce my special guest, Brother Emoni Robinson. He will be addressing the practical preparations for these last days, as well as survival tips to endure these present and coming crises. Brother Robinson, good to have you.
Thank you.
Based on what we covered so far, how serious these times are that we're living in, where would you start, especially dealing with the communication crisis we're living in?
There are just so many things that need to be addressed when it comes to this. We are living in dire situations. We need to make sure at all point and at every moment that we have a backup plan that is very necessary, and I cannot stress that enough. As prophecy is being fulfilled, we realize that times are not going to get better, but they're going to get worse. And so what I want to first introduce to you, one of the main things that you always must think about and always must have a backup plan for is communication. When the cell phones went down, you know, those who may have had these items that this one item I'm about to show to you were ready, but those that were not were in panic. What do I do? My cell phone's off. How do I communicate? How do I get in contact with my family? If I need to get in contact with emergency services, how do I do that? So I want to present to you really quick an item that you must get. It's not that you need, you must have it inside of your arsenal, inside of the list of items that Pastor just pointed out to you. So I want to point out the issue of communication. Communication is one of the top categories that you must meet. I cannot reiterate that enough. So I want to show you an item we have here, which is a ham radio. You know, we have ham and we have GMRS. Now, GMRS and ham are your primary options, your primary backup tools that you can use to communicate with family, communicate with friends, or even if you need to reach out and listen to the emergency service radio situations to where you may be traveling, this type of communication will allow you to do that.
And of course, we know that there's a time limit on some of these things, but during the inception of the crisis, while people don't have a way to communicate, we will, if we put these things into practice and get ready.
That is right. That is correct. I cannot stress it enough. You must think about it. And then one of the important things, too, is that once you do buy these items, it's not good enough just to have them, but you must practice with them. You must learn how to use them, that when the point comes that if you need to pull them out, that you are actually able to use them to the utmost capability.
All right. So, I mean, what else do you have to share with us? Because we spoke about the fact that the cyber attack is coming and it's going to negatively impact the electric grid. And we know how important electricity is, power. Most people, if they don't have electricity, they just can't cook in the kitchen.
That's right.
Based on the type of stove that they have. And while you're getting ready to answer that, if you notice in Leave the World Behind, all the communication systems were inoperable.
That's right.
So we can see what's coming. They're telling us what is coming, and that's why I call it the white swan. So to these things, you say what as it relates to the cyber attack negatively impacting the electric grid?
Well, generally, as we know, if the cyber attack comes, there are other facilities or other means of that we take for granted that may also be taken away. And one of those, as Pastor just pointed out, is electricity. Now, one of the utmost important options that you also have, you must know how to start a fire. You must have these things available. So I want to present to you some items that you may not have actually thought of that will actually aid you and give you a backup plan. If you just want to use a regular light or regular matches, I'm going to present to you something else, take you to a higher level to see other things that you may have that are open to you right now while these items are available. Right now where that there are reasonable prices. Because as we know, as time moves on and as these things become more and more scarce, the price is going to go up. So we want to be able to address it now. We want to be able to obtain these things now, that we will not be in the crowd that's searching for these things, that are rushing out to the stores and being stuck in traffic trying to get these things. You will already have those have them in your possession, that you won't be part of that crowd. So right now is the time that you will want to focus on these things that I'm about to present to you. And I will point out the advantages and the disadvantages so you can make a logical decision to see what works best for you and your family.
Go ahead. So where does the ability to start a fire rank in the importance, of food preparation?
Being able to light a fire not only applies to food preparation, but other essential things that you can need for survival. For one, without a fire, you can't boil water. Say you need to go to a water source and this is all you have, your water straw that you may have already obtained may be malfunctioning, where you may need to boil water. So you cannot do that without a fire. You cannot, if you set up a base camp and you need to be outside the regular environment, fire can also be used to ward off predators that come into your camp. You may have a fire that can also be used as a deterrent. But one of the most important things is that when you're able to do and have this basic knowledge of how to start a fire, it's a morale booster. When you see things where the weather may change, and as you know, when you're out in the wilderness, there's nothing that's predictable. Things can pop up left and right, and you always have to be ready to address those issues. And so by able to have this basic skill, basic supplies to start a fire, this will aid you in that and will alleviate the stress that may come along through that experience.
So what would I need? Why would I need storm-proof matches if I already have regular matches and lighters? Because when someone hears this, they're thinking, I already have a stash of regular matches. I have, several regular lighters.
Well, let me just present to you something from the Great Controversy, when in reference to what took place. And I'm talking to you from a historical point now, and I'm going to refer to the Waldenses. Those who adhered to the faith now withdrew. Some, forsaking their native Alps, raised the banner of truth in foreign lands. Others retreated to the secluded glens and rocky fastness of the mountains and there preserve their freedom to worship God. So what we see, Pastor, is that when these individuals, when it came time for the Waldenses to flee, they wanted their options was to go higher into the mountains. Now, what has happened, what we found out and what we've discovered is that in particular situations at higher altitude, your lighter may not work. Your regular matches may not work. So what we have now in the society that we live in, that addressed that issue was met. And that's why we have stormproof and windproof matches that even if you carry these matches, you may be crossing a lake, you may be trying to flee, you fall into a lake, you fall, water may just overcome you. These matches, when you pull them out, will still be able to light, unlike normal matches.
I mean, the rain may fall and get you wet.
That's right. And so what do you have to do with your regular big lighter? You have to wait for it to dry out. If it doesn't, and it still may not even work. So what is your backup plan? I want to stress always having a backup plan to what your immediate circumstances may be and being able to address any unpredictable situations that may come up.
How long will an average amount of fire paste last when lit?
Well, fire paste, a different option. I want to show that right here. Fire paste, what you can actually use it for is that it's an actual gel as it comes in a tube like toothpaste, and you can actually use it to actually make your own lantern. You take the top off, have your tree branch or whatever you want to use to put it on, and you light it. So the fire paste will give you probably maybe 1 to 2 minutes, and you can also use it as a primer for your stove if you need to cook.
Let them see that in the camera there, the fire paste, because some folks may not know what it is, what it looks like, to go and source it. Source it.
And this is the actual box that it comes in.
Wonderful. Let them see that. Excellent. Practical tips, survival tips. So what would be a primary advantage of fuel tablets over the fuel paste?
Well, primary advantage, let me show you the actual fuel tablets. Primary advantage over the fuel tablets, over the fuel paste, is that you have a longer burn time. Like I just mentioned, the fuel paste will last you maybe 1 to 2 minutes to allow you to adjust to what you need to do. But if you were to actually want a sustained flame over a longer period of time, that is where the fuel tablets come in. And I want to actually show you what they look like.
Okay.
And one of the primary things about the fuel tablets is that the more you burn, the more you can actually maybe get close to actually boiling water or cooking. 1 to 2 tablets won't be enough. That'll be enough to start a fire, but not be enough to actually cook. So that's one of the disadvantages of the fuel tablet.
Let them see it. Fuel tablets. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So what makes fire sticks non-toxic and odorless when they burn?
What makes fire sticks odorless and non-toxic when they burn is that they're made out of only 2 ingredients, and that is wood shavings and wax. So they compress the wood together, and then which would, of course, is just regular from nature, and that would actually decrease any kind of toxicity that you would normally get.
What are some uses of the other cords inside the paracord, especially the fishing cord, since we don't fish?
Well, I want to show you that.
Right.
Normally, when you get a paracord, now what has happened to meet the need of survival, paracords are now being designed where you actually have the straight paracord, but inside you have different components that can aid you in different type of scenarios. For one, as Pastor just mentioned, this is the actual fishing cord. This is the actual cord that you can actually use to start a fire.
Okay.
And these,
which is this one here.
That's right.
Right.
And we'll see a presentation of that in a few minutes. And these are actually ones that you can actually tie together to use for anything. Shoelaces. You can actually use them to suture a wound. So there are many practical purposes that you use. And the full strength of this entire cord ranges around 625 pounds. So you can use it for anything, any other options. Now, the reason, another option, since we don't fish, that you can actually use the fishing line for would be if you wanted to set up tripwire around your encampment to alert anybody coming in that you don't want to come in, you can tie it for that. That's another primary source that you can use it for, because it is tough, and it can endure that type of setup scenario that you would want to actually incorporate. So with that, if of course, if you're not fishing, that will be a secondary application.
Correct.
And these cords in here could also be used if your shoelaces get damaged or anything like that, that you can use them to actually repair your shoes and tie your shoes also.
I know some people use magnesium, right? So are there any concerns while using magnesium shaving for fire starting?
One thing, and this is a bag of magnesium. One of the primary things outside of using the ferrocord is that you just have to pay attention to magnesium, very flammable. So once you actually light it, you have to make sure that you keep it out of an environment where it may cause it to combust. So that's one of the primary dangers of magnesium, because when it burns a white fire, white light.
Yes.
And so it burns very hot, and that's why it's used in fire prep situations. So you just want to keep that in mind as to when you invest in this. So if you're going to carry in your pack, make sure you don't have it next to anything else. Maybe you may have fire paste, you may have any other things. You may be in a hot environment, lay it down. You want to keep it in a situation as to where it is isolated away from extreme heat, and to where you don't have to worry about it self-combusting. So that's the primary thing. But this is an asset. This is very useful when you want to invest and when you want to do fire prep.
Let's talk about the ferro rod. How many uses could we get out of the ferro rod, especially that size that you're holding up right now?
Right.
Because I mean, they're different sizes.
That's right. This is a ferro rod. One this size, you can average about 20,000 strikes. So that can last a lifetime, unless you're overusing or anything like that. They range in sizes, but this particular one, you can get about 20,000 strikes out of this. So this is what you would actually use to ignite whatever you're trying to catch fire, whatever you're trying to use to ignite your fire, and of course to stay warm. So that's what both of these two items go together.
And I guess later on you can share with us where we can source.
That's right.
Some of these things
That's
here.
Right. That's right.
So how would you actually use a fire mask?
Fire mask is designed.
Because we were talking about this earlier.
Okay. Now, the fire mask is one of the things that I would stress now. Anybody who has a home, whether or not you're in the country or not, you need to invest in a fire mask, because one of the primary advantages of having a fire mask at hand's length that you can grab in case of an emergency, you can't predict fires.
Correct.
Whether or not they're forest fires or something may happen in the home, you want to always go to any extreme that you can to make sure you have a safe environment for you and your family. So what the fire mask actually does is that you actually put it on, and it actually gives you 40 to 60 minutes worth of breathable air to escape your environment to get to safety. Whether or not you're in your home, or whether or not you're maybe in the woods and there may be a forest fire and you may be in your car trying to escape. Because most people don't die from actually being burned. It's more smoke inhalation that they pass away from.
Correct. So earlier you mentioned the fire cloak. Just speak to the audience about that.
Okay. Fire cloak is a secondary option. Again, there are two primary things that you may want to keep in your home: the fire mask and the fire cloak. They can work hand in hand and go together. What a fire cloak is, and what the difference is from a fire blanket, is that the fire cloak you can actually wear. You can actually it's designed for you to put on, and actually includes a hood, which will protect your head. So once you have your fire mask and your fire cloak, you put your mask on, you put your cloak on. It fits. It has two little crevices you can stick your hands in, and you can cover yourself and escape.
So, I mean, just imagine if you're in the country and, God forbid, there's a forest fire. Something happened next door, down the road, somewhere, somehow, and that begins to engulf your property. Now you know what to do, especially for your children.
That's right.
Fire cloak.
That's right.
Fire cloak.
That's right. And one thing I wanted to point out too is that the fire masks that we just mentioned, when you'll see a picture of them very soon, is that they are designed to fit children 4 years old and older. So even if you have a young child, the fire mask will fit on that child. And so I think it's a worthy investment for those who may have families, large or small, that they think about these things and they think about preparing and not actually reacting to the situation.
Well, I'm going to make them prepare now, because I've always said this. When you look at the 7 last plagues, one reason why God brings the 7 last plagues is as payback for what the tyrants did to the people in society.
Right.
And one of them rather, is going to be fire. And fire and brimstone, because they are going to manufacture fires to destroy property, and destroy lives. So we need to be prepared.
That's right.
You had some videos, some practical
yes.
demonstrations
That's right.
for the people.
That's
I
right.
mean, where do you want to start?
We'll start with the matches. We'll show you a clip of actually how they work. What you'll see from this actual clip, you'll see me lighting the lighter. You'll see me dipping it into water, which would normally put out regular matches, would normally put out your lighter, and then pulling the match back out and it's self-igniting back to where you can actually still use it for any other scenario that you may need to use it throughout its entire burn cycle.
Somebody just heard you might think, who doesn't know about this, might think you're in chemistry class, or you're actually in the lab, in the physics lab, or you're actually working miracles. So let's see this.
Now here what we see, I'm showing you the actual matches, and they come in different sizes. And I'm pointing that out to you. You have the medium size, which is right there. Open it up on the inside of each lid. They have this thing called kindling, which will be a copper, a cotton ball that you can actually place, and you actually have extra striking capability in case the one that's actually on the container wears out. So, and then from here, I will show you the larger matches, the larger version. And so these are, of course, will give you more burn time. And again, in the cap, they all come with a cotton ball inside that you can actually use. And again, extra striking capabilities in case the outside container gets damaged.
Right. So you strike on the outside container.
That's right.
Correct. And the longer matchstick, for some people, might be better, especially for starters. Because imagine if the matchstick is too short.
That's right.
And it's your first time.
That's right.
They're going to either drop the matchstick or burn themselves.
That's right. And I want you to remember, these are not toys. These are a step above your regular matches. So just always keep that in mind, that if you think it's out, make sure it's out, because they're meant to burn in adverse situations, whether it be storm, whether it be if they were drenched in water, like we mentioned earlier. They're designed to keep the fire burning. So always, once you think it's out, always check it and make sure that it is out.
All right, let's go to the clip number 2. Talk us through this one.
Now here, I'm actually going to I'm showing you the different sizes again.
Correct.
Just to reiterate, of matches that you can invest in. Small, medium, and I got 2 large ones. And those two, there's no difference between the two large ones outside of the company that makes them.
And you will speak about that later on?
Yes.
How to source these things for some people who don't know?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
So I strike the match. Now what you're going to see me, I have a little bowl of water. I'm going to put the match into the bowl of water. And these are designed, again, to not be affected by water. So I dipped it in. Now pull it back out. And as you see, it reignites. Now, normal matches won't do that.
No.
Normal lighters won't do that. And so I just wanted to give you an example on how that actually works. So that's why, and again, I want to reiterate, as the Waldenses, as when they had to flee up higher into higher elevations, again, the question is asked, why do I need, if I have regular matches, why do I need this? If I have a regular lighter, why do I need this? Higher elevations, less oxygen, less probability that those regular matches and those regular lighters that you have are going to work. So you always want to be prepared for every scenario.
And let me talk to them one more time. We're told in the crisis that we will be led by angels into the mountains.
That's right.
Higher elevation.
That's right. That's right.
So walk us through here.
The next item. Here is the fuel paste.
Which you spoke about.
Right. And so I'm actually going to show you how you can actually make a homemade torch from that actual fuel paste.
All right, let's see. Walk us through this one.
Okay, I just went and picked up a regular stick. I took the fire paste, I placed it on the branch. After I placed it on the branch, I began to, I'm just going to work it in a little bit, smear it a little bit onto the branch, tree branch. And then I'm going to take one of my matches, and I'm going to light it. So once you do that, say for instance, you do have stormproof or winterproof matches, and they get lost, or heaven forsake, they get stolen, and all you have is your fuel paste. You can still actually start a fire, and actually have a fire source. Or if it's at night and you need an alternate source, your flashlight may go down or something like that. You can place a lot of this fuel paste onto that stick and light it, and that can serve as a temporary light source in a scenario, an emergency scenario.
Even back home, we had our own version of starting a fire. This way is quicker.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we had to break up, sticks, fine sticks, a small piece of paper, light the paper, and and fan that thing. 1, 2, 3, I could start my fire and get going.
That's right. That's right.
Wonderful. So the fire sticks
Yes.
here.
Now, this is going to be a combination of two things, the fire stick and the actual ferro rod. This is an example of a waterproof fire stick. Right now, I'm getting the container ready to start the fire. I broke one fire stick in half, so they normally come there longer. I broke it in half, and then I'm going to place it into our area to actually ignite the fire. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up the ferro rod, which we just addressed, and I'm going to actually use that to actually start a fire and show you actually how a ferro rod actually works. And so by this, you take your steel and you actually scrape it. You'll see the sparks come out, and once that happens, you'll see that the fire actually start. Not difficult.
That that version looks more like what we would do back home. That version.
So again, this is a backup plan. Say you do have your matches. They get lost again. They get damaged. You have your ferro rod. You can still start a fire without having matches or without having fire paste if you don't have any of these things.
Fire for food, fire for water, fire for heat.
That's right.
Especially in certain climate.
That's right. Those of you who may be living in colder climates,
correct.
This is very crucial and very important that you make sure that you know how to start a fire and you have the tools,
correct,
to do that. You don't want. That's right. Beforehand, you don't want to be in a situation where you have to react. You want to act now and obtain these things while they're still available.
Okay. And to also ward off.
Oh yeah, most definitely ward off predators.
Correct.
Coyotes, maybe even wolves, bears, whatever type of environment that you may be in. There's certain parts of the country where these animals still roam.
Correct.
So you want to that being able again to actually to start a fire upon will, to have these things that aid you when starting a fire are crucial.
And train your children.
That's right.
Train your children.
That's right. And I also want to stress that, good point, Pastor, to bring that up, is that not only must you know how to use these things, but take your kids out.
Correct.
Train them. Get them familiar with these items while we still have time to do that. Because you may be separated, become separated from your children. And you want them to have the basic survival skills that they can, if you're not around to help them, they can actually continue and survive on their own.
In the SDA community, we had a group called Missionary Volunteers. And from that to Pathfinders. This was what we were taught back home in Jamaica. I'm not sure what's going on right now.
Me neither.
Yes. So walk us through this one.
Okay.
The flint rod.
Right. So I'm showing you again that you can actually use to have the magnesium kindling here. I'm just pointing that out, and you can actually put that in there and actually use the ferro rod to strike that. That's what that was about.
Okay. And this one.
Next item. I'm giving you a backup. Again, this is backup upon backup. You have a ferro rod with a striker that's actually attached to paracord that you can actually wear around your neck in case you lose your matches, in case you lose your fire paste, in case you lose your fire sticks, in case you lose your main ferro rod, you have a backup. And that's what this is. Same thing. You hold it like I'm holding, adjust it, and you scrape it and get the sparks going. Once you have that, you can actually use that to start your fire also.
You know, some people looking back, the older folks looking back, I mean, we used to laugh at Rambo and what Rambo used to do in a crisis, MacGyver back in the day. We don't realize that we need to be as some of these Marines, how to survive in certain situations that are not the usual.
That's right.
How do I survive? How do I make it through?
That's right. That's right. And as
It's not a joke.
It's not a joke. And as I point out in history, the ancient Waldenses, even before persecution started, they knew that they would have to flee.
Correct.
And so prior to that, when you know you have to flee, when you know that there's a possibility that you have to leave your immediate comfortable living environment, and you know that you may have to go into the wilderness, they pre-planned. It's only common sense.
And even soldiers who are going overseas in the jungles, they have to know how to survive.
That's right.
Survival
That's right.
tips.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And we
That's right.
are God's soldiers.
That's right.
In God's army.
That's right.
Heading to a crisis.
That's right.
Where's the preparation?
That's right. And so this message it's a very pertinent and very crucial, important information that people need to start thinking about.
Correct.
And if you haven't been thinking about it, think about it now. Do not wait. Do not be reactive. Be proactive.
Correct.
And obtain these items while you still can, and obtain them while there are prices that
we can afford.
That's right. Because once you begin to look into the options of being able to be more self-sufficient, and you start purchasing these products, you can see that the price can go up.
Inflation.
And up. That's right. So
demand.
That's
demand.
right. That's right. So while you
Supply
can,
and demand.
That's right. So while you can, I cannot stress it enough. While these things are still available, while the Amazon and UPS trucks are still running, make sure that you do the research, figure out, like I said earlier, what's going to work best for you and your family, and invest in these things. And not only invest when you get these tools, once you get these items, don't just buy them and put them in the closet. Take them out, practice with them, become familiar with them. So when you're in a stressful environment, a stressful situation, you're not looking for the instruction manual to figure out how to use it.
It's too late.
That's right. It's too late at that point. So I want to stress again, purchase the items, practice with the items. Get a group together, family and or friends.
Yes.
And you go out and you help each other.
Correct.
Because again, this is nothing new. This people who understand what's coming. People who understand that persecution is going to come for those who fear God and give glory to Him. We understand that these things and this mindset is necessary. The practical aspect is necessary because we should be able to help ourselves. If God has given us the ability, given us the means, the technological means, we need to address that. We need to take it seriously.
Walk us through this one here.
Okay, now this is the paracord. Now, one of the things we point out on the paracord, one of the options that you have is that you actually have a flint. Again, so everything is gone. Your matches are gone, or your any kind of option to actually start a fire, and you find a way to start a fire. You can actually take your knife with this paracord, cut off a strand of it, and actually see this paracord actually comes with a flammable option that you can have, and kindling, as they say, that you can have to actually use to start your fire. So if everything else is gone, you have your paracord, here's your option.
There are no excuses.
No excuses at all.
So many options.
So many options that you have that you can actually survive on your own.
All right. So walk us through this one here. I remember as a child, we had the magnifying glasses.
That's right. That's right.
And we put it to the sun.
That's right.
To catch a fire.
That's right. Okay, now, this is called a pocket bellow. Now, we know when you get down to the scenario of actually have to start a fire, when you may get your ashes going, when you may have to rub two sticks together to get your ashes going, you don't want to actually stick your face up in the flame because actually fire gets going, smoke's coming out, as you know, and some sparks or some ash can come out. So what this actually is, that's called an actual pocket bellow, to where you can have your fire, step back, extend it out, and actually blow to get your fire going without actually having to stick your face actually into the flame as what is normally done.
Correct.
So that's another actual item that you can get. And as you can see, most of the things that I'm showing you here are small, very medium to small items that when you have your 30-second bag, when you have that's right, your getaway bag, that you can actually fit in there and it won't add weight.
Correct.
They're very, very light items, and they're very, again, easy to use, but make sure you have them and make sure when you get them, you become familiar.
So one of the sessions, we should emphasize and speak about that bag.
That's right.
Some of
it's coming.
the top items that need to be in that bag.
That's right. That's right.
And again, not put it in the bag and put the bag in the closet.
That's right.
But practice with the item.
That's right.
Let's move on here. So that's
So again, this is another practical example of what the pocket bellow. As you can see, now they come in different sizes. This is actually one I demonstrated. So you can actually see how even with the flame maybe going out, he actually can use it to blow oxygen into it without having to get close to the flame itself. So it's a necessary tool. Some people may not see it necessary, but it works and it helps. And there are no disadvantages to having
Correct,
that.
correct,
Weight-wise,
correct.
use-wise, it's made out of stainless steel, and so it can endure any kind of harsh environment that you may subject it to.
Wonderful. All right, this one here. Walk
Okay,
us
now
through.
we talked about the fire evacuation mask. What this actually is, I'm going to open it up. Now, once you actually get your fire evacuation mask, there are two types that we're going to show. I'm showing you one type. Now, once you get it, it comes sealed, airtight. Now, you don't want to break that seal until it's ready for use because it can actually compromise and cause the filters that you're actually going to use for survival.
One quick question. What's the price tag on this?
Right now, they range around $19.
19. Okay, so buy two, store one, and practice with the other one. Let's go.
Right. So large family, the monetary investment is not a lot in comparison to what we other things we buy.
Or you need it and don't have it.
That's right.
The fire cloak.
Okay. Now here we have a fire cloak. Now this is the second option that goes along with the actual fire mask. Now you have your mask on. So you're breathing now. So you want to be able to escape your house. Now, I would recommend if you decide on getting a fire cloak that you keep it at arm's length, whether or not in your bedroom or wherever in your children's room, wherever it may need. So if you may not be able to get to them, they actually have access to it. So you'll put it on. It comes with two little cuts, as you can see. Comes with a hood. Now you got your fire mask on already. Now you got the hood. And you put that over your fire mask. You put your hands, and then you walk out. Now you escape.
Brother, I cannot emphasize enough how many times before I go to bed I think, what if a fire should break out tonight? How would I get my wife and children out of this house safely? How?
That's right.
How?
That's right. Technology has advanced, and now we actually have options that are available, inexpensive, not super cheap for the fire cloak, but not super expensive.
And then fire in the wilderness.
That's right. So you can keep it in your car. You could have a scenario where you may be trying to escape. You may be cut off by a wall of flames and have to flee from your vehicle.
Exactly.
You can put the fire cloak on with your fire evac mask that you have, and you can escape safely.
Brother Emoni, you don't need to persuade me. I'm already convinced. Let's move on. Yes. So what more?
So
in closing,
I just cannot stress enough. I want to actually show you.
Some folks are here in the studio. I mean, what points did he omit? Because we were all talking about this. So much to cover in so little time.
Right.
Brother.
I just want to actually, you saw it in the video? Yeah. Well, as far as magnifying glass, we all know that is your very, very last option for magnifying glass. They do make survival lenses that you can actually have, that you can actually use. And of course, it's lightweight, it's inexpensive. It can be used now for map reading to magnify if you need to discover where you are or where you need to go. And of course, the only primary disadvantage is that, of course, sun, or if it's at night, or any kind of inclement weather. So that's your last option. But to have it, and it's a lot of times the cheapest. Because a lot of us around the homes probably have magnifying glasses. Our seniors, or we go over our grandparents, they may have these reading aids that you can actually use.
I bought a Bible for someone recently, and the Bible came with a magnifying glass. No excuse. Let's move on.
That's right.
Spiritual preparation, the Bible, and the practical with the magnifying glass.
Oh, good point.
Yes, let's move on, brother.
So I just wanted to just let people know front hand what they actually look like and what the actual striking capability, because you may not have been able to see them from the actual video, but you can see the strike size. Each one has one on there. And so again, I just want to point out that don't be reactive, be proactive in getting some of these items.
I want to thank Brother Emoni Robinson for this timely, necessary preparation tips. And I need to find a different word for tips, because tips sometimes make it seem as if it's trivial and optional. Friends, this is a life and death matter for you and your family, and for the spiritual refugees who will come in your presence. As the Lord says, Christians should be preparing for what is soon to break upon this world as an overwhelming surprise. We need to get ready, and we need to have you back soon.
I'll be back, Pastor.
Okay, so tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Okay, friends, I want to thank you again for joining us for this presentation. If you were blessed by this, give this video a thumbs up. What points stood out to you? Leave that comment below in the comment section. If you have not yet subscribed to God's Movement, please subscribe. And I thank you all in advance. Share this video. We're also streaming on several other platforms. You can see it there, right here, and it's also in the comment section, the actual links. Follow us over there. Subscribe to those other platforms, because when we have more things to share, this might not be the platform to share those things on. By God's grace, I thank you for making the sacrifice, joining us today. I hope it was really a life-changing presentation for the better. Share it. And by God's grace, I will see you tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern for Midday Power Surge. God bless.